Hello and welcome to the news in English, brought to you live from Dzair News. Today's top stories. The 2016 finance bill has been unanimously adopted today, Wednesday, by the majority of members of the Council of the Nation. On the one-year anniversary of Ali Haddad at its head, the FCE Businessmen Forum sets new goals for the upcoming year. And internationally, police in Austria have arrested 2 people suspected of having links to the Paris attacks at a transit camp for refugees. Hello again. The 2016 finance bill has been adopted today, Wednesday, by the majority of members of the Council of the Nation at a plenary session chaired by Speaker of the Council, Abdelkader bin Saleh. The text received votes, which is 94% and 29, or 94 present and 29 by proxy, with 121 votes in favor and 2 votes against. Adopted on November 30th by the National People's Assembly, this bill is based on a $37 barrel of oil reference price and an exchange rate of 98 Algerian dinar for $1. This bill, which will be signed next week by the President of the Republic. For his part, the Minister of Finance, Abdulrahman bin Khalfa, reassured that prices have not been raised so far. At a time when the majority of members of the Council of the Nation have unanimously passed the Finance Law 2016, political experts say that even though the opposition has the right to notify the Constitutional Council, it could not, however, have in any way freeze the passing of the bill, since the lots of government projects and even the salaries of so many workers depend on it. Nadia Qasmi has more details on this topic.
Opposition tries to freeze finance law of next year have already been described as failure when the government took its project to the parliament, though it had contained so many disputable measures. However, government relied on so many supporters to pass the Finance Law 2016, since the opposition wanted to freeze the finance bill according to baseless arguments. According to experts, opposition do not have the right to notify the Constitutional Council.
The President of the Republic will ratify the Finance Bill 2016 sooner or later, and the opposition does not have the right to notify the Constitutional Council, even though it has the right to. But when it comes to finance bill, we are limited with a certain period of time.
Even though taking the initiative to write to the President of the Republic, Abdelaziz Bouteflika, calling him not to sign the Finance Law 2016 is a measure that did not work for the opposition, since finance law is related to a limited period of time and all the government budget depends on the signature of the finance law by the President.
The President of the Republic has the right to release finance law because it is related to the general affairs, budget of the government and salaries of different workers. Therefore, it cannot be delayed.
However, away from constitutional and law reservations of opposition to freeze the finance law of 2016, the political outlets become more dangerous at a time when pro-government bodies revealed, especially Ammar Sadani, that the Hems movement ratified the complementary finance law, which contained an article of the same current 66 article. The thing that the opposition is taking as a way to create imaginary walls to guarantee some political gains.
Another rehousing or relocation process has started today, Wednesday, in the capital, Algiers, as announced by the governor of Algiers, Abdelkader Zouk. The first phase of the operation included more than 1,000 families. It is worth noting that this is the 20th such rehousing operation organized in the capital. And Sminaras has more details.
After years and years of suffering, in the early morning hours, Tin Houses residents packed their things and headed towards what will be a brand new beginning for them. New roofs, new walls, new houses, and a new life.
Thank you, God. After years of waiting, I'm finally going to be rehoused. I was brought up in the region. My husband is from here. My children were born and raised here. Thank you, God. We were living in danger, but we are finally rehoused today. I hope we will live happily ever after.
These families, well, from now on, have to cope with what will be their new reality. Yesterday's dream finally came true today.
We are so happy today. This is unbelievable. We have suffered for so long, but thank God. I'm ecstatic. I hope everyone will be rehoused as promised, and may God be with them.
More than 1,000 families were rehoused in the first day of the 20th rehousing operation of the capital. That involved 6 municipalities in the capital, Algiers, to be followed by 4 more, rehousing 6,000 families.
The Minister of Interior and Local Assemblies, Noureddin Bedoui, reiterated from the French capital, Paris, Algeria's plea to the international community to come together in their fight against terrorism efforts. As to the Algerian community abroad, the minister pledged the betterment of the management of biometric files and the swift restriction of all the bureaucratic procedures in the Algerian consulates. The FCE, or the Heads of Enterprises Forum, is today celebrating the 1-year anniversary of Ali Haddad being at its head. The forum held an executive meeting today to look into the achievements of 2015 and set up the main goals for the upcoming year. Hins Minoraz has more details.
Today marks Ali Haddad's 1 year as head of FCE. The forum includes more than 1,500 economic enterprises. Today, the last meeting for the FCE's Executive Council was also held with the presence of all the 32 executive members to assess the forum's works and put a working strategy for next year, including 3 main axes: energy, digital tech, and agriculture.
We
propose to different ministries to create mixed commissions to establish a continued dialogue and undertake concentrated efforts. The ministries that agreed are the Ministry of Commerce, the Ministry of Energy, Agriculture, and the Ministry of Rural Development.
Nos délégués ont été très actifs.
Our delegates have been really active in organizing training circles and debate conferences and workshops in favor of the delegates in their provinces. Others have participated in economic activities at the occasion of the inauguration of the Bureau.
Regroupant des chefs d'entreprise, des représentants des autorités locales.
Through his inauguration speech, Ali Haddad was keen on stressing that the forum is the main effective leader in the economic scene. Haddad also added that despite the criticism issued by some political parties, this won't prevent the FCE to carry on its duty represented in improving and supporting national economy through encouraging national production along with the development of private institutions in order to contribute in the diversification of financial sources as well as raise the industry pace outside of hydrocarbon sector.
Quelles que soient les critiques,
we always have to repeat this. We do not practice politics. We issue policies of economic development. We plan to be the architects, the carpenters and masons that jumpstart Algerian people's prosperity.
85% of the national added value is created by the private sector. This means that today the only sector that generates jobs is the private sector. The FCE Forum also met at the end of the day with more than 500 young entrepreneurs as part of the celebration of Ali Haddad's 1-year anniversary being at the head of the forum.
Moving on to our international news, about 100 gunmen kidnapped at least 26 Qataris from their hunting camp in a sprawling desert area near the Saudi borders in the early hours of this morning. 2 police officers in Samawa confirmed the kidnappings and said security forces launched a wide-scale search for the Qataris. Qatar's foreign ministry, for its part, has said it's working with the Iraqi authorities to free its nationals. And the Qatari state news agency quoted the country's foreign ministry as saying the Qataris had the necessary permits from Iraq's interior ministry to enter that country. There was no immediate claim of responsibility for the mass abduction. Moving on to other news now, and in the Syrian crisis file, the United States and Russia appear to have bridged some of their differences on war-ravaged Syria, with Moscow endorsing a plan for a third round of talks in New York this Friday to discuss a political transition. Nadia Qasmi has more details.
Russia and the United States said that a planned international meeting on the Syrian crisis would take place in New York on Friday after President Vladimir Putin received U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry. Kerry, whose meeting with Putin lasted for nearly 3 hours, also confirmed the meeting would take place. Washington and Moscow are the key powers in the process, leading talks through the 17-nation International Syria Support Group. Kerry had come to Moscow yesterday, not knowing whether Russia would agree that the Syria crisis meeting should take place on Friday in New York. Both he and Lavrov said that the negotiations would lead quickly to a UN Security Council resolution to underpin the Syria peace process.
We want Syria democratic, united, secular, Syria which is a home for all ethnic and confessional groups whose rights are guaranteed, but we have some differences as for the details on how to get there.
I relayed and reiterated the concerns that I expressed in the course of the UN Security Council meeting, which was led by Russia today. Concerns that we have, obviously, about the nature of the targets, the type of targets, and the need for clarity with respect to them. And it is one thing, obviously, to be targeting ISIL. We're concerned, obviously, if that is not what is happening. We agreed on the imperative of as soon as possible, perhaps even as soon as tomorrow, but as soon as possible, having a military-to-military deconfliction discussion, meeting, conference, whatever can be done as soon as possible, because we agree on the urgency of that
Russia and the United States are sponsors of an international effort to broker a ceasefire and political talks between President Bashar al-Assad's regime and the armed opposition. But their position on Assad's eventual fate and on the best tactics to employ against the insurgents of the so-called Islamic State group differ starkly, threatening to stymie the process. Earlier yesterday, Kerry called Lavrov the co-convener of the talks and thanked him for his efforts to lead up, now hopefully to get into New York and building on the progress that's been made.
Sergei, thank you very much for arranging this meeting, and thank you for your welcome here to Moscow. I agree completely with the agenda that you set out. I think it's the agenda we've discussed previously. And I think today is an important day for us to try to make further progress on a number of these issues.
But the negotiations had been in jeopardy after Moscow took issue with last week's unprecedented rebel talks in Saudi Arabia, charging that several terrorist groups had taken part in them.
Police in Austria have arrested 2 people suspected of having links to the Paris attacks at a transit camp for refugees in Salzburg. According to prosecutors, the pair had traveled from the Middle East and were arrested on suspicion of belonging to a terrorist organization. An unconfirmed report said the men had traveled with members of the terror cell that carried out the 13th of November attacks that killed 130 people in Paris. Austria's largest newspapers, the Kronen Zeitung, claimed the suspects were French. It said they had entered Europe via Greece with the so-called Islamic State members who later carried out the Paris attacks using forged Syrian passports. And back to Algeria now, and on the occasion of the Arabic Language World Day being held on the 18th of December every year, the organization of Word for Media and Culture has granted Zhour Ounisi, an author and ex-minister, the Medal of Arabic Language Server as a recognition of her valuable efforts to raise the level of Arabic language before, during, and after the Algerian Revolutionary War. Nadia Qasmi has more details on this topic.
Zhour Ounisi is a prolific Algerian author and politician. She's known for her powerful short stories and for her role as one of the first women in Algerian government. Zhour Ounisi was born in December of 1937 in the eastern province of Constantine, Algeria, where she lived until adulthood. She obtained 2 degrees in literature and philosophy at the University of Algiers and continued her studies at a graduate level at the University of Algiers, specializing in sociology. Organizations of Word for Media and Culture has honored Zhour Ounisi Arabic Language Server Medal on the occasion of Arabic Language Day held on the 18th of December.
This honoring reminds me of all the efforts that we have done for the sake of education through writings, including poems, short stories, and literary educational heritage of different generations. Therefore, I am proud to be honored today, especially on the occasion of Arabic Language World Day. It is a nice stand that makes us review the hard work we have missed to rise with the level of Arabic language to respect and spread it, as it is one of the symbols of nationalism, just like the Amazigh language, as we do not have to forget that Arabic is the language of Quran.
For her groundbreaking writing during the Algerian Revolution, Ounisi received the Medal of Resistance and the Medal of Appreciation in Media and Culture. Ounisi has published in many Algerian papers. She was also a founder member of the literary magazine The Algerian. Ounisi was the first Algerian woman to write fiction in Arabic, and her work was adapted to TV in 1984. She is a member of the Writers of Union Algeria, a body of writers who discusses the role of writers in Algerian society.
Zhour Ounisi is actually a great author and a deep elite. She has a huge experience through different generations, but she has always been linked to modernity. She has never forgotten to mention Algeria in her different types of writings, including short stories, books, and essays.
Zhour Ounisi is one of the first women to hold high-level positions in the Algerian government. She was a member of the National People's Council from 1977 to 1982, the Minister of Social Affairs in the government in 1982, the Minister for Social Protection in 1984, and the head of the Department of Education in 1986. In her 18 months at the Department of Education, Ounisi spent time working to reform administration and address access to school materials. She made comments about the French language in the schools, saying that she was not against the learning of French, just against the ideological association to the language. She returned to the political stage in 1997 as the first female member of the Algerian parliament. As an active voice of the People's National Assembly, she called for political parties to be unified when working for the youth of Algeria.
In order to encourage and motivate Algerian youth to read more, 13 buses carrying more than 250,000 books with over 6,700 titles will be touring several provinces of the country. The official kickoff of this library bus saw the presence of the Minister of Culture, Azzedine Mihoubi. Ins Minoraz has more details.
13 buses carrying more than 250,000 books with over 6,700 titles will roam eastern, western, and central provinces in order to encourage and motivate Algerian youth to read. The official kicking off of the caravan was attended by Culture Minister Azzedine Mihoubi, with a significant presence of children who more than ever enjoyed attending the event.
This caravan will roam the corners of the country. 10 days will most definitely be enough for the caravan to arrive to all the programmed destinations. This will be an opportunity for Algerian kids to read what our libraries have in store.
An initiative aiming to bring awareness to the need of giving major importance to reading and books in general for members of the society, kids and adolescents in particular, and this all over the four corners of the country.
Our goal is to deliver knowledge for all Algerian citizens, wherever they might be. I love my studies, especially maths. I love to read as well. It teaches me so many things. I love reading short stories. I acquire lots of things in many fields like religion.
Books certainly play an important role in everyone's life, taking us into a different world of imagination, despite the technology-driven world we live in. The book is still crucial to the youngest generations that are barely holding school books nowadays.
That's all the time we have for today. Let's have a second look at our top stories. The 2016 finance bill has been unanimously adopted today, Wednesday, by the majority of members of the Council of the Nation. On the one-year anniversary of Ali Haddad at its head, the FCE Businessman Forum sets new goals for the upcoming year. And internationally, police in Austria have arrested 2 people suspected of having links to the Paris attacks. Thank you so much for watching Dzair News. Until next time, bye-bye.